I call this meeting of the Millersville Borough Council to order as of 6:00 p.m. As a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to ask you all now to please stand for the pledge and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated. All right, first order of business. I'd like to make a motion to approve our meeting minutes for the meeting held on September 23rd, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion required for those minutes or corrections from council? Very well. Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain. Very good. And the motion carries. At this time, council will hear any comments, requests, or concerns from members of the audience related to items on the agenda or other matters. You will have 5 minutes to speak. Please either come to the microphone up here or ask that the microphone be brought to you. And also please give your name and a general address for the record. Would anybody like to address council at this time? Very well, seeing none, we will move on. Next item on the agenda is our Finance Advisory Committee. I believe we have a quorum of members here between myself, Marianne, and Phyllis. First item is I'm going to make a motion to accept the September financial reports and authorize staff to satisfy the ordinary and routine obligations incurred by the borough for this month. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion required for the September financial report? Everything seemed fine to me. Some checks? Mm-hmm. All right. Very good. In that case, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? The motion will carry. And now our first big block of the evening. Rebecca, would like to talk about our budget for 2026.
Absolutely. We're just going to bring the presentation up. All right. Perfect. All right, so we're going to do this a little bit differently than we did last year. I'm going to go over some of the bigger items. If you have your budget packet in front of you, I am going to reference different numbers to turn to so that you have the visual in front of you. And I will say that the budget process thus far has gone smoothly. We are right on schedule, and the putting together of the budget, while always challenging, generally has gone well this year, and I look forward to talking the details with you all. If you want to go ahead and skip to the third. All right. So as we know, our goal every year is a balanced budget. Our budget, of course, will serve both as our financial management tool and as a policy document. As I mentioned last year, we tend to do a combination of line item budgeting, zero-based budgeting, and incremental budgeting. We're aiming to have our anticipated revenue meet or exceed our planned expenditures, ideally to avoid a budget deficit or having to overuse our fund balance to cover recurring expenses so that we could avoid a structural deficit, meaning that there's not enough money to cover our recurring expenses or emergencies. So starting off with some revenue highlights, I am on page 23 of your budget packet. This is the numbers that you see in this presentation, which will be in the backup, is slightly different because we got a new projection for our earned income tax. Actually, we're projected to slightly higher than we had initially projected. So the slide that you see here and the actual budget document itself does reflect the right amount, but the version that was provided to you on October 3rd doesn't include that. So just keep that one little piece in mind. As you all know, our real estate taxes is where certainly we get the main chunk of our revenue. We expect that to, slightly increase. We're looking at hopefully 2.3 million next year in our real estate taxes. And then a couple of additional numbers there you see for things like delinquent and transfer taxes, which for the most part vary by year. We don't necessarily know what to expect for those. We don't want people to be delinquent, so we don't want to be collecting delinquent taxes. As I mentioned, earned income tax, we are projecting that to be up a little bit more than we had initially anticipated, so that number is just slightly different now than what you see, but we are cautiously optimistic that that increase will continue to help with our revenue stream. Local service tax generally stays pretty much the same every year. There's a couple of other ones on here, just a couple ones to point out. We're generally doing pretty well. We're pretty much on point with things like our subdivision and land development fees. We are expected to bring a little bit more of those in this coming year, though, because we've been tracking pretty high with those this year. You'll notice a new line, that's the school crossing guard services to Penn Manor School District. Because now we do not have the ESA fund, we're incorporating it into the general fund. And so that revenue line there is to bring in the money that was the 50% that Penn Manor School District pays for the crossing guard contract. And then you'll see on the expenditure side, then that's the 50% that we pay. We're generally doing pretty well on things like building permits and housing licenses. Those continue to tick up a little bit. Generally, I think post-COVID, the building permits, I think every municipality really has seen an increase in building permits post-COVID, and that continues to tick up a little bit every year. Housing licenses generally stay about the same. We're not adding tons and tons of rentals every year, but the few that we add certainly does help with revenue. And then you'll recognize the transfer from Park Trust Fund. That is the amount that we transfer every year from the Rudder Fund, which was a donated fund that we have for our park, for park maintenance. So we do a transfer of that every year. And this next year, we're anticipating to do $20,000 from that for general park maintenance and upkeep and maintaining what we have in the park. Any questions about some of these revenue highlights?
I have a question.
Sure.
Interest earnings. I think maybe I have the wrong thing. No, interest earnings. Actual interest earnings in 2024 were $86,000. In the 2025 budget, they were $63,000 plus. And now in 2026, they've gone down to $21,250. Why is that?
So that was part of the change we made with our investment strategy this year, was to take more of our large buckets of money for capital and put that more towards the larger interest bearing. Mm-hmm. We hope to continue to put more into our Pliget account, which we use. We use our Pliget account for two things. We use it for our liquid fuels money, and we also use it for part of our general fund. That bucket is actually where, for the most part, parking tickets and other fines go. And so that we get a very good return rate on that. So that's just one piece of the general fund interest.
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
And my understanding, or my recollection, is based on a conversation we had. I know it hasn't been a great deal of time, but the new strategy is turning out well. That it's performing well.
We're performing very well for restocking our capital funds. Because of the increased interest rate we got for those two by moving them to Univest, that really has helped us to be able to have additional revenue going into our capital funds. Doesn't necessarily help with our operating funds, but it does help with the capital. Any other questions on revenue? Okay. So the next, if you want to turn to page 22, sorry, we are going to jump around just a tad bit. I wanted to take a moment to talk specifically about real estate taxes, everyone's favorite. As you're all aware, our millage rate currently is 6.55. This just provides you with sort of the basics of what does that mean? Because millage is one of those things that's slightly complicated, but that is where our current millage rate is. That was the change from last year. And if you look at our millage rate change year over year, it shows the year that there were no changes, and this is really a chart showing COVID year and on. And it's always helpful, I think, to keep in mind that the borough is receiving 23% of the total amount that residents pay for taxes. We're just a small part of that, where county taxes and certainly school taxes play a pretty big part of that. So that just gives you that information. And we will talk more about millage rate scenarios towards the end of the presentation. I will encourage you next to turn to page 17 of your packet.
Last year. I think it's the reflection.
This is the breakdown of our workforce, giving you an idea of the employees. This certainly does not change much year to year. But I just wanted to reiterate the staffing breakdown that we have here at the borough and what we're looking at for the next year. In general, things have not changed much. This is pretty much what we looked at last year, but we're looking at a total of 32 part-time and full-time employees. That does not include you all, our elected officials, even though you are on the payroll. We don't necessarily consider you an employee for the sake of this document. Any questions about workforce? No. Okay. Yes.
Of the individuals on here, how many have their salaries negotiated through unions?
All but 4.
Thank you.
Right. All but 5. I'm sorry. All but 5. Well, 4 and years mostly.
Thank you.
Yes. There is more. I'm going over the basics. In your document itself goes into much more detail. So certainly, if you haven't, take a look at that. Go to the next slide for me. So this is a summary of fund balances. I think it's really important to talk about fund balances, especially when we're looking at where our general fund is this year, because it's important to keep in mind the activity that we plan for next year, how that affects our fund balance, and where we then would expect to end next year at. So you see on the left-hand side there, you've got your different funds, and then where the 2024 ending balance is the actual balance that we ended with at the end of last year. I'm sorry, we're on page 19, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
And then the 2025 estimated ending balance is what we anticipate. That's taking into account both what we budgeted, but then what we're also actually on track to do. So those are projections of how we expect to end this year. With the budgeted activity that we have currently, we are looking at some deficits in some of our categories, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And I will say too that this does continue to change, and because of the timing of when we put together your budget proposal to the additional information that we gather, especially as we now had our healthcare numbers and things like that, we provided you tonight on your seats a different scenario that shows the different millage rate scenarios to help give you the most up-to-date information. But what's important to keep in mind certainly is that we don't want to be in a scenario where our estimated ending balance is not something that we're comfortable with and going into the next year, and keeping in mind, especially for our capital funds, that we have projects and things that are intended to get done, so that fund balance becomes even more so important for funding those projects years to come. And we can continue to talk about this, but as the council president mentioned before, the investments that we made on the interest side and moving some money around in terms of increasing our interest has really helped with those capital accounts. It is the general fund that is that is feeling it the most. We'll continue to talk more about that, but really we're getting hit by things like health insurance, and increasing operating costs really for everything that we do. But as we continue to update the numbers as well, where there's a few numbers that we're still waiting on. We haven't gotten our updated property and liability insurance information yet, and we have not yet received our workers' compensation renewal yet. Those two numbers will inevitably make a slight change on any of this, probably not a huge change, but those are two important numbers that we don't typically get until end of October, November. So those are outstanding, but this is where we're at the moment.
You said not much of an impact. Can you ballpark it? Like, how much variability can we expect based on those reports?
Let's see, we tend to be, this year we did a little bit under 55,000 for workers' compensation insurance. That will likely go up. I do not expect it to go down. That will likely go up again. So we could be more in the 60 range. And then our property and liability insurance, we did last year, we spent 109,000 on that, so we'll probably be in the 110,000 area.
So we're talking about thousands of dollars, not tens or twenties or hundreds or anything like that.
That's correct.
Fair enough.
Okay, we can go to the next slide there. So wanted to take a moment, there's much more depth about this in your packet, especially in the first couple of pages. So I would say right now, if you want to turn to the front and look at the, yes, that is, which page is that? Page 10. Has the picture you see there, as well as more in-depth information. But this was a plan that I had presented to council last year, sort of looking at a 3-year sort of management plan about where we want to be headed in terms of different areas of importance. So the good news is that we were relatively successful in this first year of accomplishing a lot of the goals that we had set forth in terms of really working on technology improvements and HR processes, as well as a number of projects that happened this year. As we're looking into next year, some of the focuses that we'll have on is certainly, if we cross all our fingers and toes and we get our park master plan funding for phase 1, hopefully that will be kicking off then, and that being a huge area of interest for our park, for general recreation of the borough, and for economic development. I will mention too, in terms of infrastructure, certainly focused on the general work that we typically are doing, continuing on with our traffic signal upgrade that we started this year with the first signal at Cottage and George Street, and continuing on to make those updates throughout the borough. Looking at storm sewer is a big one for us. Again, I won't read it to you, but I would really ask that everybody take a look in the budget document in the section that I talk about stormwater there, because that is a real challenge for the borough, something that will continue to be a challenge, and something that we really have to consider different funding models to be able to continue to maintain our storm sewer as aging very quickly. And as the rules change, unfortunately, we hopefully by the end of this year and early next year will have new guidance from the state about what it's going to take for us to meet the requirements of the new MS4 permit. So depending on what those requirements are, that will affect what types of projects we do and how we're maintaining our sewer system, or our storm sewer system.
And I don't want to draw this out interminably, but I think it's important. Could you talk a little bit about the limitations of the MS4 permit so that folks understand?
Limitations in terms of?
So my understanding is that an MS4 permit tends to put more of the burden of things like stormwater onto property owners and individual taxpayers and things of that nature.
It's a mix. So we as the borough, as the municipality, we have the MS4 permit. So that, because we drain right into the Conestoga, which drains into the Susquehanna, which drains into the Chesapeake Bay. This all has to do with the Chesapeake Bay. That's all what it connects to, even though we're miles away. All of this has to do with the Chesapeake Bay. So that permit has specific things that we as the municipality have to do. Some of it are things like we have to put advertisements out, letting people know that they shouldn't dump things into the storm sewer drains. So things as simple as that. And then there are things that help us to get credit, like the the stream restoration project that we did on University Drive, that last year, or I guess that was into this year, that project helped us continue to maintain our permit. So really the permit is on us. We have to do a lot of work to maintain our permit and to meet all of the requirements. The difficulty going into next year is that the state is changing the regulations, changing the requirements that we have to hit. We've been told that likely what we're going to see next year is a change from focusing on things like doing stream restorations to doing larger regional projects, intermunicipal projects. That's what we're being told. We don't know yet. The state has its own issues right now. We're not holding our breath to know when they're going to give us that, but I was at a meeting last week, and some folks who are connected at the state were saying that it's looking like we'll have that guidance beginning of next year. So we'll see. But this is one of those items that we don't have a separate fund for. We do these projects on replacing a storm sewer. We do it out of general fund and out of capital funds, which makes it a burden on the general fund, a burden on the taxpayers, because they're expensive projects. The one that we talked about a few weeks ago, actually it would have been a while ago now, we first brought to you the issue that we're having on Valley Drive. That sinkhole, that issue there, we're talking about $150,000 fix. Not quick fixes for some of the sinkhole issues that we're having, and that's just purely because our storm sewer is aging. So that's something for us to continue to talk about, something that council might want to consider in the next year is looking at actually having a stormwater authority that would allow the borough to pass a fee on to residents to be able to help us pay for these projects, because right now boroughs cannot do that. Townships can do that, boroughs cannot do that. We cannot just start charging a stormwater fee. We would need an authority for that, and that's a project in and of itself, is creating an authority, but it's something for the borough to consider, because right now general fund money is just not enough to be able to cover these projects, and sinkholes are dangerous, obviously.
I didn't want to hijack your presentation.
Oh, no,
but
that's very important. That's a huge part of
the
this.
MS4 permit, I felt like required a little bit of extra fleshing out. You can
Sure,
go on.
absolutely. I think we hit on the big ones for this one. We can keep moving.
Next slide.
Yes, please. Okay, so this is an area that certainly if the Finance Committee has different thoughts on, I'm happy to change those numbers. I just...
As you move through the slides, Rebecca, could you
Give
call
us
out
the
page
page.
numbers?
I'm so sorry. This should be... Oh my gosh. I didn't have this one written down. This should be on page...
Thank you.
We're on page 28.
30.
28.
Got it. Thank you.
So this is the community services section. These are, a few of these items are discretionary. They're up to council how much council wants to contribute. Some of these are not so much up for discussion. For example, the Firemen's Relief Association, that we get that exact amount of money from the state, and then we directly pass it on to the fire company, to their relief association. So that's just exactly the number that the state gives us. The emergency alert services, that's our rave alert system. That's our texting alert system. That's the price that we pay every year. That's just how much it costs. And then, of course, council, if you, last meeting or the meeting before that, had approved the Blue Rock Fire budget, so that's the number in there. The two items that really are up for council to decide if you want to make a change to is the contributions to the county library and the contributions to Lancaster EMS. The county library did not give us a specific ask this year, but $5,000 is what was done last year. And the local ambulance company requested $21,000. And
It is unlikely we will be making any changes to that, given what we're looking at coming out of the general fund for next year. I appreciate the ask, and certainly when we're more flush, we can consider that.
sure,
I think
have to
that,
ask, but
I think that's very wise at this point. I do
Perfect.
have one question, though.
yes.
Under Fire Services, Blue Rock Regional Fire District, what is budgeted, is this the amount of money then we're giving them? And so therefore, what I want to know is, do we get an accounting from Blue Rock as to how this money is being spent?
Yes, that was in the budget document that they provided to us at
That-
the
that
last
was-
meeting where it
okay.
showed what they spent last year.
Wanted to be sure that was right, okay.
The way that the 128,000 is determined is a split. Some of that, most of that goes towards just purely operations, and then a portion of that goes to their building, to keeping up the building itself.
Right.
So that's all baked into that number, and it's a calculation between us and Manor Township. Manor Township pays their percentage, and then we pay our percentage.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions about that item? The next one, this does not have a page number. So, we are, I just realized an error on this. It is not 100, it's not 129 percentage points going up, it's 12.9 percentage points going up.
An important decimal point.
Yeah, that was an important decimal point, sorry about that. So, this is a big one for us every year. Oh, I'm sorry, no, I do have the right decimal point, it's the other one, that's fine. So Millersville Borough is a member of the IIC, which is a cooperative, how we do our health insurance. A fantastic benefit to us, really. It is a self-funded program, so that means we are paying for what we use, and then we, as part of this cooperative, we also pay into basically a fund that helps in years that we go over, that we all contribute to. And it's good that we do that, because this year we're looking at, this is where the 129 was correct, 129% of our expected claims. So we're over 100% of our expected claims for this year. So we will not be getting a surplus. We're going to be looking at taking from that pool, which is great. That's, I think, one of the huge benefits of us being in this system, is the fact that we can rely on other municipalities in years that we're not doing as well, and then at years that we are doing well, we're helping others out. So it's a really great system that we have that helps us as a self-funded program. Our 2026 renewal increase is 12.9, pretty big number. Last year, we increased 10%. We're being told industry right now is somewhere between 10 and 15 across the board, so 12.9 is not crazy. At first, they were looking at 16% for us, and then when I got the actual number, it came down to 12.9. Still high, but we're looking at 1.2 million in terms of the annual claims that we're looking at for next year. So this is a pretty big one for us. But one of the great things about us staying with the IIC is that majority of the money, 97% of the money that we spend on health insurance does go right to our claims. We're paying very little overhead compared to if we went with like a private company or if we did this all on our own. What we're looking at for next year, because the change was under 14% per both of our union contracts, we do not need to go forward with trying to make any changes. That's the way that we have it set up. The non-uniform staff will, by their contract, they go up a little bit in their payment. They will be paying $35 for single coverage and $55 for family coverage per pay period. The police do not contribute to the health insurance. So it's a big number. It's a big contractual number that can't change. Any questions about health insurance? I had to call that one out because that is one of the biggest numbers in our general fund.
Yeah, looking on here, health insurance, under employee benefits on page 28 here, I have that listed as almost exactly $1 million. Is that accurate?
In terms of,
What we are projected to spend
Or health insurance.
for health insurance
for this year,
for 2026?
for 2026, we're gonna be about 1.2 is what they came back with from
I should
our
have been
IRS.
clearer. Is the slide correct or is the budget document correct, is I guess how I should have said
Oh,
that.
your October 3rd budget proposal did not include this information because we
Thank
hadn't
you.
yet received that. So this includes the most accurate. And then when we submit to you another version of this, it will have that information. But it's just the timing. We submit the budget on October 3rd, we didn't have that number yet. Any other questions about that? That's the fun part about the fall, is it's a bit of a moving target because we get new numbers in as the months go on. But we want to give it enough time so that we can have these discussions. Okay, so switching gears a bit, there's a couple of additional documents, not necessarily in your in the budget document itself, but in the additional packet that you had that had a couple of different things in it that we want to talk about. The first one being a look at different millage rate scenarios. So that, we provided you a fresh one of those this evening because that did change a bit. So that was sitting on your stack this evening. If you want to pull that out. Let me pull out mine. Lots of documents, lots of fun. Okay. So, just as we did last year, we put together a couple of different millage rate scenarios, looking at everything all the way from no increase to a 2 mil increase. The 2 mil increase would give us an excess. So we're really looking at the no increase through the 1.87. So please take a look at these. Like I said, the ones you got tonight are the most accurate numbers as of today. So with no increase, it would be a $687,000 deficit in the general fund. And then it goes forward from that with the different possibilities. What we'd be looking for is for council to think this over, give us an idea of what number you'd like to see in the budget, so that we can make adjustments from there. The difficulty, of course, is the general fund, the big ticket items are all contractual items. There's very little in the general fund that has a lot of flexibility. We as a small borough, we try to operate on, a bare bones type of budget. We try to be as resourceful as possible with what we have. It's very tricky with the big ticket items being those contractual items that do not change.
What items do we have that are a recurring large expense in the general fund that we expect to fall off at some point in the future? Certainly, big ticket items like employee health care are going to just exist for as long as we have employees, and that's understood. But do we have items coming out of the general fund that, say, won't be present in 5 years or 10 years or something like that? Because as it stands now, we are falling behind, not precipitously certainly, but we do need to take some kind of proactive step to stay on top of this. And is there some kind of respite insight where we can determine how far we can fall behind while maintaining a responsible amount of money and not putting too much of a burden on the residents?
So I don't have a magic bullet on that one. I don't have one item that would really make a big difference.
I'm not asking because I didn't go through and I wanted an answer. I couldn't find anything. I just didn't know if I had missed something.
There are, certainly things that are what I would call slightly more optional than required. As you know, this building is coming up on 20 years of being in existence. And just as the way it goes, you keep thinking, oh, it's a new building, nothing could possibly go wrong. But it is 20 years old, and there are a few things that need to get done. They're all mostly the small ticket items, like washing the windows. Hasn't been done in like 20 years. This room has not been painted in 20 years. There are a couple of items like that that can certainly be postponed. There is some needed maintenance on our water tower that we've been putting off for a few years. We put it off. We got some estimates last year. It was just too high. We put it off. But there are some needed items on our water tower. And I will say, you know, the money that we put into the water tower is very minimal compared to the amount that we get back by having the different cellular services use the water tower and essentially rent the water tower to have their cell sites there. So the money that we bring in from that is significant. It's a nice additional revenue stream for us. That doesn't go anywhere, you know, the water tower's standing. But we do need to maintain it. But that's something that we could postpone for another year. We could postpone doing a transfer of money from the general fund to general capital to plan for the upcoming projects. I would certainly recommend against this because we need to be planning for the upcoming projects.
Actually, rather than, I'm going to spare you going through the entire list. If you just give me the number at the bottom. What do we stand to save if we scrimp a little bit more on this, let's call it optional maintenance stuff?
Maybe about 50,000.
Okay. I will save you the trouble of going through the list in too much detail. 50,000 is not insignificant, but in the scheme of our general fund, that's not a great deal of money.
And no, unfortunately not.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Last year, we approved, it was either half or three-quarter mil, which,
Quarter mil.
three-quarter mil. So we did that last year, and now we're going to ask the residents to have an adjustment again.
It is certainly up to council how you would like to proceed in that area. It does-
I know, the answer is
Yes is
yes.
the
I know
answer,
that.
and
The
it's-
answer is yes.
It's not Rebecca's decision,
No.
fortunately, I
It's-
guess,
and
she's not
it's-
elected.
You know,
but-
I just wanted
this
to
is-
mention that because when you look at these numbers, there's absolutely no question that we have to increase the millage.
Yeah, there are some funds, so can you bring up the slide that shows the graph for the millage rate increases? One of the things that we're not enjoying,
We didn't have a slide for that. Which one are you thinking? The fund, are
Yeah.
you thinking the fund balance one?
Like this. No, the millage.
We didn't have that one up on the screen.
oh, did you not?
No, you have.
Oh,
no,
that
no,
one, I'm
no,
sorry.
no,
I'm
hang on
sorry.
just a second.
I understand. This one.
Thank you, yes. Okay, so that, as I recall, what page was that again, Rebecca?
That should be one of the 22.
22.
All right.
And I just one thing to note here, because I think it's important, it was in your narrative, but I think it's important for everybody to remember and understand, is the county is doing a reassessment right now of all properties. So 2027, those reassessments go into play. That has an effect on the borough in a few different ways. One of them being that by law, in a year that a reassessment has happened at the county level, we cannot make a change that would essentially hit residents twice. So generally assuming that for the most part, when you get a reassessment, it's going to go up, especially because it hasn't been done in
10 years.
or because they missed a COVID year. So generally it's going to go up. So we as a municipality cannot increase the taxable rate that would go over 10% of what they would be increasing to, because we can't hit people multiple times. So keeping that in mind, next year is one of those years that making a millage rate change is complicated and probably not necessarily in the borough's best interest. Things may change. We don't know how next year is going to look. But just keeping in mind that the reassessment will have a pretty big impact on the borough in 2027.
But also one we can't predict.
One we cannot predict.
Yeah, and my recollection is as we see that beautiful flat bar between 2022 and 2024, we were receiving some outside funds that have since vanished.
That would be the ARPA funding, yes.
Yes.
So There's like good times, but it wasn't really good times with COVID.
Well, it was easier times from a budget perspective.
And that, because that money went right to
This
our
is when we
general
had
fund in terms
ARPA
of
money.
Yeah.
police salaries, so.
This is-
Certainly a decision does not necessarily have to be made this evening. If there's more information that we can pull, additional scenarios, we have all the scenarios there from 0 to 2. But if there's anything else that you'd like us to be able to pull to give you a better picture, we're happy to do so. I would just say to give me your sort of feedback as soon as possible so that we can put together,
When do
The
you
next
need a
version.
decision by?
The finance committee will discuss this again at their next meeting, and that would be the time that it would be ideal for the committee to decide officially what number you'd like me to put in there.
Next finance committee as in the next meeting this month, or as in the first meeting in November?
The first meeting of November.
And we won't be having a second meeting in November, is my recollection?
We have one on the calendar.
And we will have to have one if we don't have a budget decision. I'm thinking of
Not
the second meeting in
necessarily.
December.
That's the second one.
Yes, there's no second
That's
meeting in
always
December.
Christmas
That is
Eve.
correct.
Right, very good.
How are we, as far as the millage rates concerned, how are we in comparison to other municipalities? Please tell me.
So it's good timing, the municipal managers and us, we all share back and forth about what we're projecting. I will say that for the most part, at least, well, it's hard to compare us with other townships, certainly.
Yeah, we have a list, though, of, say, other boroughs that we are roughly
Comparable to.
equivalent to in the size and content. So when we look at those municipalities, where do we stack up?
We are one of the higher millage rates across the county. We're in the top 5. But we
And-
have been for many years because we do have 40% tax exempt property in the borough.
And this is a big problem, and it would be awfully nice, I noticed in one of these pages when we were looking at it, the people who give their properties that give money in lieu of taxes.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's anything that can be done, but it would be awfully nice if we could get some money out of some of these properties. I know
Yes.
it's practically impossible.
I will say that those who give, we are very, very grateful to. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much.
There's one particular organization that does give us enough to really hit most of that number. We do get a handful of churches who also submit a payment in lieu of taxes. But it is tricky. And that's what makes us, to Councilmember Baleal's point, what unfortunately makes us slightly unique in the scenario when we compare across the board, because we have one of the highest tax exempt rate, well, I think we have the highest tax exempt rate in the county and probably one of the biggest ones in the region. So we have a different ballgame, unfortunately. We are one of the top millage rates in the county.
So in a case like this, there's not really an equivalent municipality. When we look at another college town, like say Elizabethtown, that has a fair amount of area. even
Smaller and
they-
private,
Yeah.
smaller and private. We are the only one with the big state college.
Yep.
So that, and as we know, the state is in, again, its own situation, so it's not like they're ready to throw money at the municipalities.
All right. I am going to hazard a guess, and Finance Committee people, correct me if I'm wrong. We're not going to come to a decision on this evening.
No. No.
If we do require further discussion, that's fine, and further elucidation from Rebecca, that's fine. Do please keep Sunshine Act stuff in mind as we have those discussions. We want to try to have these as publicly and openly as possible to share with the public. But yeah, I would expect a slew of questions in your inbox in the coming days.
That's fine, absolutely, and at the next meeting, we can have a further discussion on this, and like I said, if there's any documents or any visuals that you'd like to see, we're happy to try to put that together. The next item to look at, sort of in a similar scenario, is looking at the solid waste rate scenarios. That document was also in your initial packet. Sorry, there was a lot of documents, so many documents.
Yeah.
Budgets are important, they require a lot of paper.
Yeah, a lot of paper. So the solid waste, you'll see that one only has like 4 different columns on it. So We are looking at a deficit in our solid waste fund. This is the fund that we use to pay our trash and recycling. So residents pay a fee for that, and we pay the hauler and all of the various expenses that go along with providing trash service. So we are looking at just a little over 90,000 in deficit. And while of course that feels like nothing compared to the general fund, this fund really has one main revenue source, and that is residents paying for their trash service. And because we entered into a new contract last year with Penn Waste, which was a bid process, they were the low bidder. The way that the contract works across all the municipalities, not just us, is that there's a calculation that determines how much it goes up each year. So ours continues to go up every year, just like everybody else's. So we're looking at $427,000 that we'll be spending next year in the collection of trash, as well as the disposal part that we pay to Laxwama to dispose of the solid waste. We pay about $200,000. That's what we'll be looking at for next year.
What is the status of our, I just want to get an idea of scale. What is the current status of our solid waste fund?
So right now, our balance, if the activities that we have planned for next year and there's no other changes, our balance would be at $380,000.
Thank you.
That is not 3 months of expenditures. So
No, I understand.
for our further conversation around the unreserved fund balance policy, if we're trying to keep 3 months of expenditures as reserve, as fund balance for each of these operating accounts, that one would fall below the 3 months. So that would probably put us in a bit of a more scary position. The scenarios there have 4 different scenarios of possible increases that we could be looking at for next year. I would probably recommend that it would be best to aim for us to clear the deficit, clear the 90,000, because again, that won't necessarily go away. That doesn't really change with changing expenditures. That kind of is really based on the money that we pay for the hauler. So if you look on your sheet, then it is the really the $12 increase that would get us there, but $10 I think would also be fine. We're actually, in comparison to others, we actually still have one of the lower trash bills in the county, so, or at least in comparison to those who have population density like we do. We've been looking at potentially going from right now $85 to $90, $95, $97. Does the Finance Committee have any particular feeling on that at the moment?
No, I agree. Mary Ann, any thoughts? None? All right.
None.
I would say that I am likely to recommend a $12 increase,
Okay.
but I'm not going to make any recommendation this evening.
Okay.
I think that requires further consideration.
Perfect. And again, if there's additional information that we can provide or run, happy to do so. That was a little more cut and dry. The last sort of extra thing to look at is the different fee schedule recommendations. Last year, we brought forward a number of different fee schedule changes, because a number of them hadn't been changed for many years. This year, less so, but a couple of particular ones to look at. Really one big change that I am recommending for our general fee schedule, and that is the addition of one fee that relates to the fact that the council approved a handicap parking ordinance last year, or this year.
This year.
Or I should say, it wasn't an ordinance, it was a policy. But we need to have that application fee in the fee schedule, so that would be just adding that section under the last section, and other borough fees would be a new line F. Application for handicap parking sign would be $50. So that If there's other changes that folks would like to see in the fee schedule, please do let me know. We did more of a comprehensive look at that last year.
Yeah.
And made some pretty big changes on that one, so I don't have any additional ones to recommend this year. And then alternatively, on the fee schedule that is specifically related to the trash hauling service, or I should say in general with our trash program that we provided to you all. It has a couple of comments on the side. That is the one that says collection and disposal of solid waste and recyclable materials. So we did some fun research in the office and think we determined that the fees for our tags have not been changed since 1990. It may be an opportunity for council to consider a slight change to those fees. Now, obviously, we're not talking about hundreds of dollars here, but the fact that it hasn't been changed since 1990 seems relatively significant. My recommendation would be for us to be looking at increasing the cost of red item tags to $6. Right now they're $4. The yellow extra bag tags, right now we give 4 tags for $5. We'd be upping this to 8 for a cost of $2 per, but we only sell them in a pack. For the blue tags, those are the ones for the appliances. Right now we charge 12. We'd be looking at upping that to 15. And then for the green yard waste tags, right now those are just like the yellow tags. You can get 4 of them for $5. We'd be upping that also to 8 for $2 per. That is my recommendation in helping us stay current with the cost that it actually takes for all of those items to be collected and going to Lancaster County Solid Waste, but also to keep us on track with others as well. These are even much more discounted than if you were to take things directly to a service state, like if you're going over to the Laxfama site on Harrisburg Pike and dropping it off. These are certainly lower than the prices that you'd be paying it yourself. So continuing to discount that for residents, but changing it a bit from 1990.
Yeah, that is certainly something I can get behind, shifting more of the burden for these services onto the folks that are actually using them. As someone who probably too frequently uses those tags, I mean, it's something I am certainly happy to do to take some of that burden off of everybody else in the borough.
Any other questions?
No, I think that,
I think we have to do that.
So for that one specifically, or for I should say, for both of the fee schedule changes, those would be then approved by resolution when you approve the budget in December.
that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, questions, anything about the budget document?
No, only to point out that was an excellent presentation. We appreciate it. Obviously, you've
was.
given us a
Yes,
lot to
very good.
consider.
You did an excellent job, and you could answer any question we threw at you. So that's
Do my best.
impressive.
Last item, they kind of go hand in hand with the budget. It's a conversation that was started earlier at the last committee meeting related to the unreserved fund balance policy. The reason why I say that they really do go hand in hand is because we should be thinking about fund balance when it comes to the conversation around the budget, and it should be a conversation that we really have every year, and that's something that the policy would call for, would be a conversation around fund balance and how it's working every year. In doing some additional research, having some conversations as well with our auditing firm, what I'm going to recommend is that the fund balance, and this is reflected in the document that you had in your backup, that we would have for our 3 operating funds, for general fund, for sewer operating fund, and for solid waste operating fund, having 3 months of expenditure, average 3 months expenditure set aside as our fund balance. So trying not to go under those amounts when setting the fund balance for the next year. And we have a way to do that on the accounting side to make sure that that money is being saved in that way. But this is really helping us to continue operations in the event of an emergency, or in the event that something significant like a pandemic or something like that happens, and we're in a situation where taxes might not being paid on time, bills are not being paid on time, other things like that. So that's really what we're preparing for with having a fund balance policy. And this is a big recommendation that comes not only from our auditing firm, but from the overarching, the GASB, the overarching government accounting standards body. So something that I think is really important for us to have, and something to help us continue to strengthen our financial foundation.
I believe we had this question answered before, but the body making the determination of what constitutes an emergency would be this body, correct? Would be council.
Yes, yes, right, exactly. And as you see in the policy itself, all of these are caveated with, unless council chooses to take another direction.
This is a policy, I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I just wanted to make that clear.
yeah. But I think it's a good guiding document for us, and encourages us to really be thinking about preserving that emergency fund year over year.
Yeah. I mean, I personally feel as though we've sufficiently talked through this in discussing this previously, but if other members of the committee have any questions.
So what we'd be looking for this evening is an approval, or a vote to approve this out of committee, and with a final review of the solicitor before then a vote of council.
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve the unreserved fund balance policy out of committee and authorize review by the solicitor before a vote of council.
I'll second.
Very well. And any further discussion required before I call the vote? Very well. All those in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? I believe that passes with unanimity.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. And I can put the, call an end to that particular finance committee. Again, well done, Rebecca. Turning it over to personnel.
Personnel committee, let's do a roll call. Will you raise your hand if you're on the personnel committee? Okay, so we definitely have a quorum. Let's start with the first item. I'm going to start with a motion. Mike Weidinger has asked to be reappointed to the Planning Commission, and I will make a motion to do that.
I would like to wait until Mike is in attendance. We don't have a full council here.
So we have a majority, and I still make my motion. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And Mike is reappointed. Now, the Lancaster County Planning
I'm
Commission.
so sorry, I think we
That's
missed.
just out of committee, right?
That's out of committee, right? We'll bring it to out of committee
I just
to the
wanted-
council
Council.
meeting.
I just want to make sure, we have 3 members present for
Right, and
personnel.
2 of us, I think Linda even voted yes. I'm not sure, I didn't hear her
No, I
say
did
it.
not vote yes.
Were you opposed?
In committee, we have 2 members voting yes.
And I have no.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
so it's 2 to 1.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we had that right.
It's my understanding that the Lancaster County Planning Commission reached out to the borough. What they're attempting to do is create a pool of planning commission candidates, possible candidates to rely upon if there are vacancies on the Lancaster County Planning Commission. I'm going to nominate Angela Cuthbert to that pool. Is there a second?
I'll second.
She can't.
You can't second it.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now we come to another budget item, actually 2 of them, and we're going to have to vote on them separately. The first is the management salary and benefits memo. And you should have 2 memos. That's the first one, management salary and benefit memo. Most of our employees, of course, are covered by a contract. Our police and our non-uniform people are. We have a few people who are not, and those are 4 people on the management team. They have no contract, and we can do with them what we will. The last couple of years, we haven't always done it this way, but the last couple of years, we've based an increase in salary on the across-the-board percentage increase over the previous year's salary, and it was based on the increase negotiated with the borough's non-uniform employees. Rebecca has done performance reviews on the 3 department heads who report to her. Josh, or Joe, have you done anything with regard to a review of Rebecca?
Not yet, but we're
Okay,
working on it.
but it's in the works. Okay, I will entertain a motion, I think so. I've got so many papers, I'm getting confused. I think I'm looking for a motion.
You don't necessarily.
No, I'm not,
take
it's
a
just a
motion.
discussion at this point. The other, of course, and she's laid these salaries out, it's the same situation, only these are the part-time employees, and in recent years, we've accorded them the same kind of increase, and I guess this represents the same thinking. So it would be in keeping with the policy of the last couple of years to go along with these 2 budget items. Is there anything else for the Personnel Committee? Is there anything else that anyone on the Personnel Committee would like to discuss? Then, good night to you all.
Very well, we'll turn it over to our Public Works and Public Welfare Advisory Committee.
That would be me, and the first thing I'd like to do is a roll call. And right now, Linda, Angela, and I are here, so we have a quorum on our committee. And is Rob here? There he is. Rob, could we have a codes and zoning report for September, please?
Yes, thank you. For September, we issued 14 permits, performed 19 inspections. We had 53 rental renewals and 76 inspections. So far in October, we had issued 8 permits, 0 inspections. We had 103 rental renewals and 17 inspections so far.
Does anyone have any questions for Rob? All of this is in our backup material, and you can find it on the computer, so it's very easy to check, and it's always very, very complete. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on public welfare is a review of proposed capital improvement plan for 2026 to 2031. This is not something that requires a vote. This is an item for us to review as part of the entire budget procedure and conversation. So this is a time to ask questions about the projects that the borough is planning for the next 5 years. And I would assume that perhaps some of you do not necessarily have questions ready this evening, but we can do that at the next meeting, I would assume, if people find things that they would like to discuss from the capital thing. Anybody have anything they want to discuss this evening? Okay.
I can just add
Yes,
just one
go
thing.
ahead,
I would-
Rebecca.
I just would encourage everybody to take a look, certainly at the items that we have listed as projects for 2026, as those would be the ones that are specifically in the budget for next year, but also taking a look at some of the items that we intend to go after some grant funding for, because some of these projects would fit in nicely with either DCED funding, PennDOT funding, other opportunities. So you'll see listed on the side there in the notes section, if it's something that we think that we could be going after grant funding for. That, of course, speaks back to our larger conversation about revenue streams and figuring out how to make things work with our numbers in the borough. So we're hopeful that next year would be a good opportunity for us to go after some additional grants, especially for some of these larger projects that have a pretty big number next to them.
Yeah, because some of them do have a pretty big number.
Yes.
And grants are always a great way of working on this. Angela, do you have any questions? Linda? No, okay. Then we'll move on to the next item, a discussion of draft resolution concerning tax exempt financing for student lodging solar project. Did you have something you wanted to present this evening before we go into this?
Yeah, it's just the way that I had on the agenda was that first and then the other stuff. So do you want to just wait and talk about it for the second one? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we'll wait.
So they have the presentation for the second part, which is actual talking about
The solar, yeah, that
Well,
part.
so this is related to that, but this is just a resolution concerning a tax exempt financing that they're going after
Right,
for this
and
project.
they're looking for they want to secure their tax exempt financing. And according to what I understand, you've done this before, so this is not a new process. And the transaction requires a resolution to be adopted by the borough. And our solicitor has already confirmed this as a standard resolution, so this is not an issue we need to worry about. The municipality in which the project is located consents to financing the project. I need everybody to understand that approval, the resolution does not constitute zoning, subdivision, etc. Approval, and the municipality assumes no repayment responsibility on this particular item. So what we need to do as a committee is I'll make a motion to approve the resolution concerning tax exempt financing for the student lodging solar project. Do I have a second? Angela, thank you. All those in favor from the committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the motion is carried. Abstain, there's nobody to abstain, everybody voted. Okay, so next we will move on to the review of the Cottage Avenue Solar Project subdivision and land development, final plan submission and waiver request, because we've seen some of this before, so this is not something that's totally new for us. Guess I'll have to put my glasses on. Good evening.
Tom Godfrey with Dahlwood Engineering, here representing student lodging for the Cottage Avenue Solar Project. The plan before you, as you noted, is a plan for subdivision of the existing tract at 240 East Cottage Avenue. It is roughly 25 and a half acres, and it is currently zoned TND. It also has the green energy overlay district for that property and historic preservation overlay. The proposal is to subdivide the property to create two lots. One would be about 4.5 acres on the front part of the lot where the existing house and barn are, to maintain and preserve that use. And then also the remaining portion of the property, which is about 20.5 acres, on the southern portion of the tract. So on this, north is essentially to the left. Cottage Avenue is on the right side or the left side of the plan. We've got a property acres out the front, and then 20.9 here in the back for development as a primary solar energy system. The site generally, from a topography standpoint, slopes from west to east. We've got Bordner Run that pretty much matches the eastern property line. There's a high section to the site on the southern end, and there's a lower section in the middle. There are generally two open areas outside of the existing residential portion. There's a tree line, and there are two open areas on the site which are proposed for the development of the solar portion. The remaining, you've got a wooded hillside on the east side. There's also a separation between those with a wooded hillside So those two open areas are the areas that are proposed for development as a solar arrays. The access to the site would be via a proposed driveway along the western side of the tract. It'd be a 10-foot wide gravel driveway, also for construction and also for routine maintenance that may occur over the years. The site, as part of the solar array, will be developed generally consistent with the existing topography. The development of the solar array is to meet the Green Energy Overlay Ordinance and also to meet DEP's standard guidance for development of solar arrays. The things that really come into play there are that the guidance has criteria for mounting of the solar panels, kind of min and max height. The topography, generally, they would like to see undisturbed to the extent possible, and also within certain slope criteria. This northern portion on the lower area essentially meets all of those criteria, and essentially with that, meeting those DEP guidance criteria, it basically has next to no impact on stormwater runoff. So it's viewed as a meadow because of it meeting the criteria for mounting heights and for the type of topography. This upper array, the existing topography is a little bit steeper than DEP recommends to meet those, so we actually can't take that, basically that approach of no stormwater management. So there is stormwater management proposed for that upper area. And then also because the drive itself would be gravel, there are stormwater management areas to handle the coverage change for the driveway here, and then also out on the small kind of bioretention areas. The other thing that is part of that is that in compliance with the existing ordinance, there's within the solar area, there's basically a replanting and reseeding to be a meadow mix that has a minimum percentage of the pollinator-friendly seeds. So that is included as well for these development areas. The other thing that's been included here is that there are a few areas. There's an area here where the tree line is a little bit narrowed out, and then also on the upper, there's a section there as well. We are proposing to include some supplemental evergreen trees there. Aside from that, generally we've received comments from your engineer, from the county planning commission, and your solicitor. I believe we've addressed all of those. We're in compliance with those. There was some discussion at planning commission with regard to Cottage Avenue. Right now, it's kind of curvilinear in alignment. At one point, there was some discussion about realigning this. It's not current in the plans, but one of the other things we found in doing the survey for the property is that, and coordination with your borough staff, that the right-of-way for this portion of Cottage Avenue isn't well documented. It's not currently dedicated in any way that we could find, so part of this plan also proposes dedication of the right-of-way that is basically crosses the boundary of this property. So anything that would be within a 50-foot right-of-way plus the potential to realign this would be offered for dedication with this plan, so that it would be at the borough's discretion to use that if you choose in the future. The other thing that came up was a recommendation for a path along here. There are 3 waivers that are proposed with the plan. One is in regard to separate preliminary and final plans. This will be done as a single development. There wouldn't be any phasing, so we're proposing to do it as a final plan. Secondly, there are some of these plans, as shown in the previous one, to show the entire property on one plan. We're using a scale that's in excess of the ordinance requirements that are requested on the plan scale for some of those sheets. And then also for curb and sidewalk along this portion. Right now, the drive, Cottage Avenue roadway drains, and for certain sections, primarily this northern and the eastern section, across the property directly into Board Run without storm sewer. Proposing to maintain that existing drainage pattern. And then also, there's no sidewalk, so one of the recommendations from planning was to include a path there. So this plan would also include a bituminous path, and I believe a permit has already been applied for and approved for that. So that's kind of in the works already, to be done in good faith towards this plan. So those are the three waiver requests. Those are the two main items of discussion during planning, and I'd be willing to answer any questions that you might have or attempt to.
I'm going to open this up to more than just the three of us on this committee. Does anyone else, this is a major thing for in the borough, do any others have any questions they would like to ask student lodging about this particular project? No questions?
Well,
Oh, no, wait, I see Kyle back here.
Only question I would have is the storm sewer that you are going to be adding on the property, is that going to maintain private, or will that become part of our MS4?
It is all privately maintained, essentially, and I would clarify to say that it's stormwater management. There are there are 6 stormwater management areas, which are relatively shallow bioretention areas. Really no storm sewer to speak of, and they're all private property, privately owned and maintained.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be added to our MS4 permit and have to maintain the outfalls and all that stuff, so, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for them, for student lodging?
That was my question.
Go ahead.
That was my question.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, then I can go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll note that we're looking at a number of different motions here, because the
Right.
first item would be a motion related to the actual conditional approval of the project, and then there would
I
be,
have a whole list of them.
yes, a motion related to the financial security for this project, and then to try to make it easier, I split up motions for the first 2 waiver requests, and then for the third waiver request, I have that as a separate motion. I just wanted to note something about the third waiver request, because there are sort of 2 options going forward with that third waiver request related to the
Path and sidewalk.
and the basically the waiver of the requirement for curb and sidewalk. Essentially, if one considers this to sort of be like a sidewalk, then one can say that that's essentially taken care of. But the other part that we're looking at is the curb, I should say, the curb part of it. So, Planning Commission and our engineer would say recommend the waiver of
Yes.
the requirement, condition, of course, upon completion of the actual putting in the path. I will just note that from a legal perspective, our solicitor would also, or would potentially say instead recommend a deferral agreement. That would mean that we would be requesting that student lodging at some point in the future, if that road was going to be straightened, then at that point, there would be a discussion around curb.
Curbs and, yes.
So there are 2 sort of different recommendations on the table. If you all would like to approve the waiver, then that's a simple vote this evening. If you all would prefer to go the route of a deferral agreement, our solicitor could put that together, and I could bring that forward at a separate meeting.
Well, really, we need to do these first few before we do that.
Yes, I just wanted to give you that information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I make a motion to conditionally approve the subdivision and land development plan for the Cottage Avenue Solar Project submitted by Student Lodging, Inc. upon completion of the items in the Borough Solicitor's 10/4/25 letter and the engineer's 8/29/25 letter. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, now the next part of this. I make a motion to conditionally approve the financial security of $195,412 for the Cottage Avenue Solar Project pending final review of the borough engineer. Do I have a second?
Second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then that is carried. I will make a motion to approve the waiver request of Section 325-8 preliminary plan submission and Section 325-14B and 325-15A plan scales for the Cottage Avenue Solar Project. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now the next one is the tricky one. We'll make a motion to approve the waiver request or request for the drafting of a deferral agreement from our solicitor. So, committee, which way do you prefer to go? Don't all speak at once.
As a member of the planning commission, you
Yes.
recommended the waiver request, so that is the direction that I.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Then I will make the motion accordingly. Motion to approve the waiver requests of Section 320-6, construction of curbs and sidewalks required for the Cottage Avenue Solar Project. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I'll second.
Second, there you go.
Oh, you gotta have a second.
Sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, I think we're done with that. Okay, thank you very much.
And as we're breaking down up here, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who participated in the Millersville Parade about a week and a half ago, and those who were out to enjoy the day. It was a gorgeous day. Additionally, our last meeting, Civil Service came before you and asked for conditional hiring for a gentleman who was going through some things. They will be meeting on the 20th of this month, next Monday. So I would be prepared to have them come before you on our next meeting on the 28th for a recommendation.
Which means he passed all the remaining steps that were required for the conditional.
Excellent.
So, one step closer. So, that's about all I have. Thank you.
Did just me or did that parade go real fast this past?
It did go very fast.
That was a little longer at the
And
end.
hats off to also to the university for the alumni for a fantastic block party as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Unfortunately, they didn't pull it off at the football game, but,
Yeah.
We never did.
so.
Thank you,
But-
Mr. Mayor.
Nope.
Rebecca, would you like to talk some more?
Yes.
She'll have laryngitis till the night's over.
Oh, gosh. Reiterating the parade success, it was great. I actually thought, I don't know, I guess I felt like I was walking at a good speed. I didn't feel like it went too fast, but that's just me.
I would like to just make a comment at this time, as having been on the parade committee forever. And this year I took a step back so that I could watch the parade. And I have to say that I think we are at a point where we need to talk to the university a little bit about more community involvement. This had always been a community university parade. And it has morphed away from that to being a university parade without the input from some of us who are community volunteers and have done this for like 27 years. And I just think that I just want to go on record and saying this, I'm going to be calling your dad one of these days to talk to him. I do think that we need to look at the community involvement here.
Gosh, I hope you don't get grounded.
Oh, she,
Okay.
gotta call Victor.
Well, on that note, I had a really great opportunity to attend a event that was put on by a couple of organizations at the state level. It was called Wandering Waterways. It was a tour on September 28th of different stormwater management projects in both York and Lancaster counties. And that was a really neat opportunity to see different successful projects going on and give some additional ideas for what we're doing here at the borough. And then I'll go into the first item then, the discussion and adoption of the hazard mitigation plan resolution. The county has been working on getting through approval at PEMA, the new hazard mitigation plan, and also getting some adoption pending approval status from FEMA. But this has been an ongoing project. We've submitted our paperwork that was required for it. All the municipalities have. And the next step in this process, which is actually the final step in the process, is for each municipality to pass the resolution adopting the hazard mitigation plan. This would allow for, in the future, if we needed to go after FEMA hazard mitigation assistance funding, that we would be able to do so by being part of this overall hazard mitigation plan with the county. So we're looking for adoption of that this evening.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the Lancaster County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very kindly. Does anybody have any questions about this plan? Again, this was included in the backup. I certainly have none either. In that case, all those in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? The motion will carry with unanimity. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is discussion and approval of the annual resolution reducing police officers' contributions to the police pension plan for 2026. This is the resolution that we bring forward each year around budget time, that the state allows us to pass a resolution to reduce the police contribution to the pension plan. Per the police contract, that reduction is to 2.5% of their salary, so they would be providing 2.5% into the pension plan. The resolution is just required for us to continue to do that. So we're just looking for a motion.
Yep.
Wait, what did you say again? It was 2.5?
2.5 is the 2.5% of the police officer's salary is what they contribute
Into the
to their
pension
pension plan.
They're paying now,
Yes.
and they want to take that away?
No. So the resolution allows us to bring it to 2.5. And as long as the council continues to approve that resolution every year, we can continue to, because I think the state has it at a higher percentage. So this resolution allows for council to continue to bring it down to their agreed upon amount in their contract, which is 2.5.
Other questions? In that case, I will make a motion to approve the resolution reducing the police officers' contributions to the police pension plan for 2026 to 2.5%. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Phyllis. Other discussion or questions required? In that case, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? The motion will carry. And that's it for you, right? Very good. I certainly have nothing to report, no need to extend this any further, but we will have one more public comment section. I should let everybody know we will be going into executive to discuss a personnel meeting after this. But at this time, we will we will hear any comments, requests, or concerns from members of the public related to items on the agenda or other matters. We do ask that you come to the microphone here or ask that the microphone be brought to you, and also that you give a name and general address for the record. Would anybody like to address council at this time? Bless you all for your mercy. At this time, I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session so that we might discuss a personnel matter. Do I have a second?
Second?
Very good. And all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Very good. Council will enter the executive session at 7:29. If the public would like to remain until council completes that, you may wait in the lobby. You all seem to know the drill. We will
You can
return.
mention there's no vote.
Yeah, there'll be no vote afterwards.
That has to come up at council. We're gonna just leave it at the next meeting. She should never just have done that. I know. She did it. She wants to get Mike in and see Angela and the Whiting. I understand that. But I thought I did stop it by stopping her, and then she says, "You did go forward," and then I said, "No, I'm against it." So there were only 2 out of 3 that voted. I don't.
Yeah, but see, we're gonna go in there.
He puts it ahead, gives it to her. Because there was a quorum.
I thought a quorum had to, they all had to vote for it.
No. If there's 4 people, 3. If there's 3 people, 2.
All right, he got it.
out there. They all bailed on us.
Well, if they were smart, they all bailed on us.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Usually David Sykes hangs around, but he didn't even stay.
Well, we've gone quite a bit over.
Oh, my, yes.
Yeah, you gotta watch these Sykes people.
That's my maiden name.
Oh,
And no, I'm not related to
I was
Brian.
going to ask you if you were related.
I always used to get that question, but no. No, you're fine.
I'm good? Okay.
You're fine. I didn't eat that much supper.
Can we get the other council person there? I need a quorum to adjourn.
Got a quorum.
Oh, I do.
You have a quorum.
I would like to move that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Very good, then we stand adjourned as of 7:50 PM.
Okay.